If you are just getting started with birding, here are 10 essential items that you are going to need. I'll put links to everything I mentioned down in the video description below for you to check out. With that said, let's get into the first one. Number one is binoculars. It's pretty hard to bird if you can't see any birds, right? So a good pair of binoculars is going to be very helpful, and for the first couple of years when I first started birding, I did not have any binoculars, but I did have a camera, and you can kind of get by with that, but once I got binoculars, it was so much easier to find birds. And if your camera runs out of battery, you can still use your binoculars to find birds, which I had problems with that several times. The binoculars that I use are the Celestron Trail Seeker ED 8x42s. And when it comes to binoculars for birding, 8x42 is the kind of magnification that you want because that's going to get you a lot of distance, and it's also kind of a wide field of view, which makes it easier to find birds. If you were to get a pair of binoculars that zooms in a lot but then doesn't have a very wide field of view, it can be kind of hard to find birds sometimes. And then if you were to get ones that have too wide of a field of view, then it can be even harder to actually see birds because you're not zoomed in enough. And so with all the research that I did, I found that 8x42 is by far the most common for birding, and you could go a step above that if you're focusing on like shorebirds and waterfowl, but for most birding in general, I would recommend the 8x42s. Another thing that you really want to look for in binoculars is a comfortable grip, because ideally you're going to be holding them for a long time. So you want something that fits well in your hands and you can turn the focus knob easily. And I found that the Celestron Trail Seeker binoculars are very comfortable to hold, and the focus knob turns super easy, which can be a problem with some cheaper binoculars. And once you get some binoculars, it can be super helpful to just practice focusing really quickly on, say, a bush or something, and just moving around and focusing and just getting used to which way the focus dial needs to turn for you to focus on something, and just getting used to moving them around and trying to find what you're looking at, because it can be kind of tough to see something with your eyes and then try to find it in your binoculars. So if you just practice going through that for a while, it can be pretty helpful and save you some time when you're out birding. Number two is a reliable birding app. The one that I would recommend for you is Merlin Bird ID. Inside this app, you can identify birds by their picture, you can identify the birds by their sound, or you can identify birds just by describing them. So like if you saw a bird and you're not sure what it was, you could put in its color, about how big it was, and what you saw it doing, and it's going to give you a whole list of birds that could potentially be for you to narrow down, which can be super helpful when you're first starting. As I mentioned earlier, Merlin can also identify birds by their sound. The way it works is you have it listen to a bird song, and then it'll go through its system and try to pick out what bird best matches that song. It's about 95% accurate, so you do still need to have a little bit of knowledge about bird songs, but overall it can be a great place to get started, and I found it super helpful and I use it all the time. You can also sort by likely birds if you want to brush up on some of your local species. And it's just a great way to memorize what birds look like. I'll put a link to my Merlin Bird ID tutorial down in the video description below. Number three is a good field guide. While apps are great, nothing is going to beat just flipping through a good field guide. And so there's several different types of field guides you could get. You could get one for your individual state, you could get one for your region, or you could get like this Sibley guide right here, which is just all the birds in North America. I recommend getting this one because if you ever travel, you won't have to get a new field guide, and you can see birds that are outside of your expected range. Number four is a notebook and a pen. A simple notebook will let you jot down some sightings, weather conditions, and bird behaviors, and it's just a good idea to get in the habit of journaling about your birding experiences because it can be a great way to learn. While you can also keep track of sightings with websites and apps such as eBird, just a regular notebook is also a good way to go. Number five is a reusable water bottle. Birding sessions can last for hours, and you do not want to get dehydrated. Personally, I like the Hydro Flask. It keeps water cold for hours, and since it's made of metal, you won't get any plastic chemicals in your water. Number six is weather-appropriate clothing. Birding means you're probably going to be outside, and so you want to make sure that you have a good hat, sun shirt if it's really sunny outside, maybe a raincoat in case it starts raining. Birding during the rain can actually be really great. Birds can be pretty active, especially right after a rain, so you want to make sure that you're out there then. Also, don't forget to bring along some sunscreen or bug spray. Number seven is a decent camera. If you want to document your sightings or even start a photo life list, which can be pretty fun, a decent camera is really all you need. While you could get some great pictures with a Nikon Z8 or some fancy camera like that, you really don't need that to get started. And in fact, you can get some pretty good pictures on a camera such as the D5600, which is what I use. If you're taking pictures of birds, you will want a long lens, some ideally over 300 millimeters. I first started taking pictures of birds with a 70 to 300 millimeter lens, but now I've got a 150 to 600 millimeter lens, which is a lot longer and a lot heavier. But if you're just getting started, 70 to 300 millimeters could work, and it would definitely be a good upgrade at some point in the future to get a super telephoto lens like the Sigma 150 to 600 millimeters. Number 8 is a bird feeder. Not every birding session has to be out in the field, and a simple bird feeder in your backyard can be a great way to learn about birds. The best feeder to start with, in my opinion, is a hopper feeder with black oil sunflower seeds. Tons of birds eat them, and if you want to include even more birds, you could put out a sock feeder with some thistle seed for finches and other small birds like that, but the black oil sunflower seeds will attract a lot of birds in your backyard, and you'll be surprised just how many birds they can attract. Number 9 is a spotting scope, and this is all about long distance birding when it comes to spotting scopes. Binoculars are great, but a spotting scope will take things to the next level and allow you to identify more shorebirds, waterfowl, and seabirds. If you're looking to get your first spotting scope, I would recommend something with a magnification of at least 20 times, and it really doesn't matter how much higher you get. The spotting scope that I use is the Hawk Endurance ED 85mm. It has a 25 to 75 times zoom, which is more than enough zoom. I am at 25 times zoom most of the time. Occasionally I'll get up to the 75 times zoom range, but that's pretty rare. And it's a great scope and has heat shimmer reduction inside of it, so that's a good one to start with. You will want a sturdy tripod to go with it because you definitely don't want your new scope falling over and breaking, and it would be pretty tough to handhold it steady enough to be able to get some decent looks at birds. There are some cheaper options, but the Hawk Endurance ED 85mm is the one that I use, and so that's what I would recommend. And number 10 is the Better Birders YouTube channel. Because if you're new to birding, you need a solid source of expert tips, guides, and just advice in general to help you continually get better at birding and avoid mistakes. And that's exactly why I created this channel, to help beginner birders level up their birding and become a better birder. On this channel, you'll find actionable, value-packed videos every single week that will help you become a better birder. So subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.